The air conditioning in Daeho's quarters had been broken for 3 days. The station's engineering team kept promising to fix it, but they were too busy with more important repairs. So Daeho did what any reasonable person would do in a metal box floating in space, where the temperature reached 35 degrees. He slept without clothes. He was exhausted. 16 hours in the lab studying rock samples from a nearby asteroid had drained every bit of energy from his body. His eyes had barely closed when sleep took him like a wave pulling him under dark water. Dreams came and went. Meaningless fragments of memory and imagination mixing together in the warmth of his small room. Something cold touched his chest. Daeho's eyes opened slowly. His mind was still foggy with sleep, trying to understand what was happening. The emergency lights were flashing red in the hallway outside his door, painting everything in his room with strange shadows. An alarm was making a sound somewhere far away, muffled and distant like it was coming from another world. Then he looked down. There was someone on top of him. Daeho's heart stopped. His breath caught in his throat. His first thought was that he was still dreaming. His second thought was that he should scream. His third thought never came because the person on top of him moved, and he realized this was not a person at all. Her skin was the color of dark glass, smooth and reflective like polished stone. It seemed to shift colors in the red emergency light, showing patterns that moved across her body like oil on water. She was thin, much thinner than any human, with long arms and legs that bent at angles that looked wrong. Her head was oval-shaped with no hair, and where her eyes should be there were 3 dark spots arranged in a triangle. She was not moving much. Her body was pressed against his, and he could feel how cold she was. It was like having ice against his skin. She was shivering, or something like shivering. Her whole body was making small movements, trembling like she was freezing to death. Daeho's training kicked in. He was a xenobiologist. He studied alien life. He had spent years learning about the possibility of meeting other intelligent species. But all that training had not prepared him for waking up naked with an alien woman on top of him. He tried to move slowly, carefully. She made a sound. It was not a sound that came from a mouth. It seemed to come from inside her body, a low vibration that he felt more than heard. The sound was sad and desperate, like a cry for help without words. "Okay," Daeho whispered. "Okay, it's okay." His hands were shaking. He did not know if she could understand him. He did not know if she could even hear him. But he kept talking anyway because it made him feel less terrified. He moved one hand very slowly toward the emergency button on his wall panel. He needed to call for help. He needed to tell the crew that there was an alien on the station. The moment his hand moved away from her, she made that sound again. This time it was louder, more urgent. Her body pressed harder against his, seeking his warmth. Daeho understood then. She was not attacking him. She was not threatening him. She was dying. He could feel it now that his panic was fading. Her body was too cold. Whatever she was, wherever she came from, she needed heat to survive, and she was losing it fast. She had found him, the warmest thing in this section of the station, and she was holding on to life by holding on to him. Daeho made a decision. He reached up and pulled his thermal blanket down over both of them. It was a special blanket designed to hold body heat. If she needed warmth, he would give it to her. He could call for help after he was sure she would not die in the next few minutes. "Where did you come from?" he asked quietly. His voice was steadier now. He was thinking like a scientist again instead of a terrified man. "How did you get on the station?" The alien did not answer. Maybe she could not. Maybe she was too weak. Her shivering was getting worse. Daeho wrapped his arms around her carefully, sharing his body heat. Her skin felt like smooth stone under his hands, hard but not rough. It was strange and frightening and fascinating all at once. The alarm was still making noise in the distance. Red lights kept flashing. Something bad had happened on the station. Maybe that something was connected to this alien woman in his bed. Maybe her ship had crashed. Maybe there were more of them. Daeho's mind was racing with questions, but his body stayed still. He kept holding her, keeping her warm, feeling her cold skin slowly, very slowly, start to warm up against him. Her shivering began to ease just a little. The desperate sound she had been making got quieter. Minutes passed. Daeho had no idea how many. Time felt strange and slow. He stared at the ceiling of his quarters, feeling the weight of this alien being on top of him, wondering if anyone else on the station knew she was here, wondering if they were in danger. wondering if he should be afraid, but he was not afraid anymore. He was curious. He was concerned. He was a scientist looking at the most important discovery in human history, and that discovery was currently using him as a heating pad. Her breathing changed. He had not noticed she was breathing before, but now he could feel it. Slow movements of her body, expanding and contracting in a rhythm that was not quite like human breathing. It was slower, deeper. She was stabilizing. She was surviving, that's it. Daeho said softly. You're okay. You're going to be okay. He had no idea if that was true. He had no idea what she needed besides heat. He did not know if she could eat human food or breathe human air or survive in this environment for more than a few hours. But she was alive right now, and that was something. The emergency panel on his wall was flashing. Someone was trying to reach him. The whole station was probably in chaos. But Daeho did not move. He stayed exactly where he was, wrapped in a thermal blanket with an alien woman, sharing his heat with her because it was the only thing he could do. He did not know it yet. But this moment would change everything. This strange, awkward, impossible moment of first contact would decide the fate of two species. But right now, Daeho only knew one thing for certain. He was not going to let her die. The door to Daeho's quarters exploded inward with a bang that made him jump. 3 people in security uniforms rushed in with weapons raised. Lights mounted on their guns cutting through the red emergency glow. Behind them came Taijun, the station commander, his face hard and ready for a fight. They all stopped when they saw Daeho in bed with the alien. Don't shoot, Daeho shouted, holding up one hand while keeping the other on the alien. She's hurt. She needs help. Step away from it, Daeho, Taijun said. His voice was calm, but his gun was not lowering. Slowly. We don't know what it's capable of. She's not an it, Daeho said. He could feel the alien trembling again. The sudden noise and lights had frightened her. And I can't step away. She'll die if I do. She needs body heat. Do-yun, one of the security officers, made a disgusted sound. That thing crashed into our docking bay. It could have killed us all. Now it's attacked you. She didn't attack me, Daeho interrupted. She's a refugee. She's dying. Look at her. Taijun moved closer, his weapon still raised, but his eyes examining the alien with more care. He had been a soldier before becoming a station commander, and soldiers learned to assess threats quickly. What he saw was not a threat. What he saw was a being barely clinging to life. How long has she been here? Taijun asked. I don't know. I woke up maybe 10 minutes ago. She was already on me. The temperature in my quarters is the highest in this section because of the broken air conditioning. Daeho kept his voice steady, professional. She found the warmest place on the station and collapsed there. That's all. That's not all, Taijun said. Her ship tore through our outer hull. We've got 3 sections exposed to space. The crash released some kind of electromagnetic pulse that fried half our systems. We're running on backup power. Daeho felt his stomach drop. That was bad. That was very bad. The station was not designed to run on backup power for long. They had maybe 48 hours before critical systems started failing. It was an accident, Daeho said. It had to be. Look at her condition. She's barely alive. Does that look like an attack to you? Before Taijun could answer, Yuna pushed past the security team. She was the station's medical officer, a small woman with quick movements and sharp eyes. She took one look at the alien and her professional instincts took over. Everyone out except Daeho, she ordered. I need to examine her. Yuna, we don't know if it's safe, Taijun started, and we won't know until I examine her. Out, now. Yuna was already pulling medical equipment from her bag. She did not wait to see if they would obey. She simply assumed they would, and they did. The security team backed out of the room. Taijun lingered at the door, looking between Daeho and the alien, then left. The door sealed behind him, though Daeho was sure they were watching through the security cameras. I need you to hold her steady, Yuna said, running a scanner over the alien's body. Don't let her move. She's too weak to move much, Daeho said. But he held her anyway, feeling her cold skin against his, feeling her strange breathing pattern, feeling her shiver. Yuna worked in silence for several minutes, her scanner beeping and flashing with data that Daeho could not read from his position. Her face showed nothing. She was completely focused on the task. Her body temperature is dangerously low, Yuna finally said. At least I think it is. I'm comparing her to Earth lizards, and the readings suggest she should be warmer than this. Her body is silicon-based, not carbon like us. That's That's incredible. Can you help her? Deho asked. I don't know. I've never treated a silicon-based life form before. Nobody has. Yuna sat back, looking at the alien with wonder and worry mixed together on her face. But if heat is what she needs, we can provide that. The medical bay has thermal units. We need to move her there? Eventually. But not yet. She's too unstable. Yuna looked at Deho, and for the first time he saw something like sympathy in her eyes. You're going to have to keep doing what you're doing for a while longer. Keep her warm. Keep her alive, Deho nodded. He had expected this. The alien seemed to sense something had changed because she made that sound again. That vibration from inside her body. It was less desperate now, more like she was trying to communicate. Did you hear that? Deho asked. I heard it. Yuna was recording everything on her scanner. I think it might be how she talks. Sound through thermal vibration. But I'm just guessing. The intercom on the wall crackled to life. Bora's voice came through. The station's AI systems operator sounding stressed. Commander Taejun, we have a problem. Long-range scanners show 12 more ships approaching our position. Same design as the one that crashed. They'll be here in 6 hours. Deho felt the alien tense against him. She had understood that. Somehow she had understood what Bora said. She made that sound again, louder this time, more urgent. Her body began to shake, not from cold but from something else. Fear, maybe. Or desperation. The lights in the room flickered. Deho's computer screen flashed with static. The medical scanner in Yuna's hand sparked and went dark. What's happening? Yuna backed away, reaching for her communicator. The alien was making the sound continuously now, and with it came waves of electromagnetic energy. Deho could feel it in his teeth and his bones, like standing too close to a powerful magnet. The emergency lighting went completely dark. The only light came from the hallway outside. She's scared, Deho said, holding her tighter. Yuna, she heard about the other ships. She's scared and she's losing control. She's going to knock out the entire station if she keeps this up, Yuna said. Then we need to calm her down. Deho did the only thing he could think of. He started talking to her soft and low, the way you would talk to a frightened animal. It's okay. You're safe here. We won't hurt you. Those ships, the ones coming, are they your people? Are they coming to help you? The electromagnetic pulse faded slowly. The alien's shaking decreased. She pressed closer to Deho, and he realized she was not just seeking heat. She was seeking comfort. She was seeking safety. I think that's a yes, Deho said quietly. Taejun's voice came through the intercom, angry now. What just happened? Half the station just went dark. She was frightened, Deho called back. She can produce electromagnetic pulses when she's stressed. But she's calm now. Taejun, those ships that are coming, they're not an invasion. They're refugees. Her people are running from something. There was a long silence on the other end. When Taejun spoke again, his voice was tired. How do you know that? I don't know it. But I feel it. And I think we need to help them. Earth Command has already been notified of the situation. They're sending orders within the hour. Taejun's voice carried the weight of someone who already knew what those orders would be. We're to defend the station at all costs. Defend against what? Dying refugees? Defend against the unknown. That's protocol. Deho looked down at the alien in his arms. She was looking back at him now with those 3 dark spots that might have been eyes. He could not read any expression on her face, but he felt something pass between them in that moment. Understanding, maybe. Or hope. Sometimes protocol is wrong, Deho said. Nobody answered him, but the silence that followed told him everything he needed to know. The station was divided. Some would want to help. Others would want to fight. And he was stuck in the middle, holding the life of an alien being in his arms, trying to figure out how to save everyone. Moving the alien to the medical bay took 3 people and a thermal transport unit that Kyung, the station's engineer, had modified in less than an hour. The unit was basically a heated stretcher that kept the alien's body temperature stable while they moved her through the cold corridors of the station. Deho walked beside the stretcher the whole way. Every time he stepped away, even for a moment, the alien would begin that sound again, that desperate vibration, and her body temperature would drop. So he kept one hand on her shoulder as they walked, feeling the smooth stone texture of her skin, feeling her warmth slowly returning. The medical bay was the warmest room on the station now. Kyung had rerouted heating systems from 3 other sections to bring the temperature up to 40 degrees. It was uncomfortably hot for humans, but the alien seemed to relax the moment they brought her inside. Yuna had set up a special bed with heating elements underneath. They transferred the alien carefully, and Deho finally stepped back, watching as Yuna began connecting monitoring equipment to her patient. The alien's body temperature was stabilizing at 38 degrees, still lower than Yuna wanted but no longer life-threatening. "She's going to survive," Yuna said, reading the monitors, "at least for now. But I still don't understand her biology well enough to know what else she needs. Food, water, air composition, nothing is certain." Deho sat down heavily in a chair next to the bed. He was exhausted. His whole body ached from lying still for so long. But he could not stop watching the alien. She was conscious now, fully awake, and those 3 dark spots that were her eyes were fixed on him. "I think she's trying to tell me something," Deho said. The alien made that sound again, not desperate this time, but deliberate, purposeful. She lifted one of her long arms, reaching toward Deho with fingers that had too many joints. "Don't touch her," Yuna warned. "We don't know if there's any danger of contamination." But Deho was already reaching back. Something in him knew that this was important. This was communication. His fingers touched hers, and the moment they made contact, everything changed. Heat poured from her hand into his. Not burning heat, but information heat, waves of warmth that carried meaning. Deho gasped as his mind filled with images, sensations, emotions that were not his own. He saw a star, massive and red, swelling larger and larger. He felt terror and grief as a world died, as people scattered into space, as everything ended in fire and light. He saw ships, hundreds of them, fleeing into the dark. He felt the desperation of a species watching their home disappear behind them. He felt the cold of deep space, the fear of not knowing if they would find safety anywhere in the vast universe. And then he felt hope. Small and fragile, but real. Hope because they had heard stories about humans. Stories about beings who adapted to anything, who survived impossible situations, who helped others even when it cost them everything. The images faded. Deho pulled his hand back, breathing hard. His head was spinning. His heart was racing. He looked at the alien with new understanding. "Your star died," he said quietly. "Your whole species is running. You came here because you needed help." The alien made a sound that might have been agreement. Yuna was staring at both of them with wide eyes. "What just happened?" "Deho, what did you see?" "She showed me." Deho's voice was shaking. "They communicate through thermal contact. Heat carries information for them. She showed me her world ending. She showed me why they came here." "How many?" Yuna asked. "How many survivors?" Deho reached out and touched the alien's hand again. This time he was ready for the rush of heat and information. He saw the 12 ships approaching the station. He felt the thousands of lives aboard them, cold and dying, desperate for warmth and safety. He saw children and elders, scientists and farmers, soldiers and artists. He saw a whole civilization reduced to 12 ships in fading hope. "Thousands," Deho said when he pulled away. "The 12 ships carry thousands of survivors. But they're in bad shape. Running out of power, running out of heat. If we don't help them, they'll all die." Yuna looked at the medical equipment, at her patient, at Deho. "We have to tell Taijun. He already knows ships are coming, but he doesn't understand what they are." Deho stood up, though his legs felt weak. "I need to make him understand. I need to make everyone understand." The alien touched his arm before he could leave. Another rush of warmth, another transfer of information. This time Deho saw himself through her eyes. He saw how she had perceived him when she first found him. A being of incredible heat and light, a miracle in the darkness. He felt her gratitude, so strong it made his chest ache. He also felt her name, or what passed for a name in her language. It was a pattern of heat and sound that his mouth could not reproduce, but there was a simplified version, a sound she had learned from listening to the station's communications. Hana. She had chosen a human name, hoping it would make communication easier. "Hana," Deho said, testing the name. "Your name is Hana." She made that agreeable sound again. "I'm Deho." He touched his chest, then reached out and touched her hand again. This time he tried to send information back, to share his own thoughts and feelings through heat. He did not know if it would work, but he tried anyway. He thought about his promise to keep her safe. He thought about his determination to help her people. He thought about how humans had always been good at one thing above all others, adapting and surviving and helping others do the same. Hana's hand tightened on his. She understood, Or at least she understood enough. Daeho left the medical bay and headed straight for the command center. The corridors were crowded with crew members working to repair damage from the crash and the electromagnetic pulse. They all stopped to stare at him as he passed. Word had spread quickly about the alien in his bed. He could imagine what they were thinking, what they were saying. He did not care. He had more important things to worry about. The command center was chaos. Screens showed the approaching ships, now only 4 hours away. Taejun stood in the middle of it all, barking orders to his team. Bora sat at her station, fingers flying over keyboards as she tried to restore damaged systems. Do-hyun and 3 other security officers stood ready, weapons in hand. "We need to talk," Daeho said, walking straight up to Taejun. "I don't have time." Taejun started. "Make time, because what I'm about to tell you will change how you handle those incoming ships." Daeho's voice carried authority he did not usually have. 2 hours ago, he had been a tired scientist sleeping in his underwear. Now he was the only human who could communicate with an alien species. "They're not here to attack us. They're refugees. Their star died. Their world ended. They're running out of time, and they specifically came here because they needed human help." "How do you know this?" Taejun demanded. "She told me." "The alien? Her name is Hana. She communicates through thermal contact. Heat carries information for her species. I touched her hand and she showed me everything." Daeho knew how crazy this sounded, but he pushed forward anyway. "Their biology is silicon-based. They need heat to survive. They can't live long in our environment without help. But they think humans can help them. They've heard stories about us, about our adaptability." Bora looked up from her screens. "Stories? How would they have stories about humans? We've never made contact with their species before? I don't know. Maybe they picked up our broadcasts. Maybe they've been watching us from a distance. It doesn't matter." Daeho moved to the main screen, looking at the approaching ships. "What matters is that thousands of beings are about to arrive here, and they're going to die if we turn them away." "Earth Command has sent orders," Taejun said quietly. "We're to quarantine all alien vessels. No one boards this station. If they refuse to leave, we're authorized to use force." The room went silent. Everyone was looking at Taejun, then at Daeho, waiting to see what would happen next. Daeho thought about Hana, dying and desperate, collapsing on top of him because he was the only warm thing she could find. He thought about the thousands of others out there in the cold of space, hoping that humans would be what the stories said they were: compassionate, creative, unwilling to let others die when they could help. "Then Earth Command is wrong," Daeho said, "and we need to decide right now if we're going to follow orders or do what's right." The command center remained silent after Daeho's declaration. Taejun stared at him with an expression that was hard to read. Anger, maybe, or respect, or both. "You're asking me to disobey direct orders from Earth Command," Taejun said slowly. "Do you understand what that means? Court-martial, end of career, possible prison time for everyone involved." "I understand," Daeho said, "but I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm telling you what I'm going to do. I'm going to help them, with or without permission." Kyung spoke up from her station near the back of the room. "I'm with Daeho. We can't just let them die." "Me too." Yuna's voice came through the intercom from the medical bay. She had been listening the whole time. "I became a doctor to save lives. All lives, not just human ones." Bora looked between her screens and Taejun, her fingers hovering over her keyboard. "The right thing and the legal thing aren't always the same thing. I learned that a long time ago." Do-hyun shifted his weight uncomfortably. He was the security officer who had wanted to shoot first and ask questions later. "I still think they're dangerous. That electromagnetic pulse could have killed us all. But it didn't," Daeho said, "because Hana controlled it. She was scared and hurt and dying, but she still had enough control not to kill us. Doesn't that tell you something about them?" Do-hyun did not answer, but he lowered his weapon slightly. Taejun walked to the main view screen and stared at the 12 approaching ships. They were visible now as small dots of light against the black. 3 hours and 40 minutes until arrival. He was quiet for so long that Daeho thought he might not speak at all. "When I was in the military," Taejun finally said, "I followed orders without question. Good orders, bad orders, it didn't matter. Orders were orders. That's how the military works." He turned to face his crew. "But I'm not in the military anymore. This is a research station. Our mission is to explore and understand, not to fight and destroy." He took a deep breath. "We help them. But we do it smart. We need a plan. Relief flooded through Daeho so strongly his knees almost gave out. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We have about 1,000 problems to solve and no idea how to solve most of them. Taijun moved to the central table where a holographic display showed the station's layout. Problem 1. We don't have enough space or resources for thousands of refugees. Problem 2. They can't survive in our environment long term. Problem 3. Earth Command will send a military ship to stop us. What's our solution? Kyung stepped forward, her eyes bright with the particular excitement that engineers got when facing impossible challenges. I might have an idea for problem 1 and 2 together. The damaged sections from the crash, we were planning to seal them off anyway. What if instead we convert them into habitats for the aliens? Use their own ship materials, combine our technology with theirs. Will that work? Taijun asked. I don't know, but I know someone who might. Kyung looked at Daeho. You can communicate with Hana. Can you ask her about their technology? Find out what they need? Daeho nodded. I can try. Bora, start running simulations on combining human and alien tech, Taijun ordered. See if it's even possible. Yuna, I need a full biological assessment of what these aliens need to survive. Air composition, temperature ranges, everything. Already working on it, Yuna replied through the intercom. Do-yun, Taijun turned to his security chief. I need you to prepare for the worst. If Earth Command does send a military ship, we need to be ready to defend ourselves. Non-lethal options only. We're not starting a war. Do-hyun nodded, though he still looked unhappy about the whole situation. What about problem 3? Bora asked. What do we do when Earth Command comes calling? We buy time, Taijun said. We tell them we're studying the situation. We tell them the aliens are quarantined. We tell them whatever they need to hear to give us time to save these people. Daeho left the command center and returned to the medical bay. Hana was sitting up in bed now, looking stronger than before. The monitors showed her temperature had stabilized at 40 degrees. When she saw Daeho, she reached out her hand. He took it without hesitation. The rush of information was becoming familiar now, though no less strange. He tried to send his thoughts to her, tried to ask about their technology, their needs, their capabilities. It was like trying to have a conversation in a language he barely understood, but something was getting through. Hana showed him images of their ships. The technology was based on thermal energy conversion. They used heat differentials to power everything. No combustion, no nuclear reactions, just sophisticated management of thermal energy. It was elegant and efficient, but it required constant heat input to function. She showed him how their habitats worked. Sealed environments with carefully controlled temperature gradients. They did not breathe oxygen like humans. They processed silicon compounds and radiated excess heat. Their waste products were crystalline structures that could be broken down and reused. Most importantly, she showed him something that made Daeho's heart race with excitement. Her people had developed biothermal bonding. They could create temporary symbiotic relationships with other heat-generating organisms. That was why she had survived on top of him. She had bonded with his thermal signature, using his body heat not just for warmth but as a direct energy source. When Daeho pulled his hand away, he was smiling. We can do this, he said out loud. Hana, we can actually do this. He ran back to the command center, almost colliding with Kyung in the corridor. I have it. I know how to help them. Within an hour, the entire crew was working on the plan. Kyung led a team to the damaged sections, using materials from Hana's crash ship to build thermal management systems. Bora worked with Hana directly, using touch communication to understand their computer systems and integrate them with the station's network. Yuna discovered that the aliens could survive in a nitrogen-rich atmosphere with trace amounts of silicon dust. The station's air recycling systems could be modified to provide this in the sealed sections. It would not be comfortable for humans, but the aliens would thrive. The most important discovery came from Daeho's continued communication with Hana. The biothermal bonding could work both ways. Humans could provide heat to the aliens, yes, but the aliens could also help regulate human body temperature. In extreme environments, this could be incredibly useful. It was a genuine exchange of benefit, not just humans helping aliens, but both species helping each other. 2 hours before the alien ships arrived, the crew held a meeting. Every person on the station was there, gathered in the main assembly room. Taijun stood at the front looking at faces that showed fear, hope, excitement, and doubt. I won't lie to you, Taijun said. What we're about to do is against orders. It's against protocol. Earth Command will not be happy. Some of you might face serious consequences." He paused, looking each person in the eye. "If anyone wants to leave, if anyone wants to file a formal objection and distance themselves from this decision, now is the time." No judgment. No hard feelings. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Do-hyun, the security officer who had been most opposed to helping the aliens, cleared his throat. "I've been thinking about what Daeho said, about how that alien, Hana, she could have killed us with that electromagnetic pulse, but she didn't. She controlled it even when she was terrified and dying." He looked uncomfortable, like the words were hard to say. "That takes discipline. That takes morality. I don't think beings with that kind of control are our enemies." "I want to help," Bora added. "My parents were refugees. They came to Earth with nothing, running from a war. Other people helped them when they didn't have to. This feels like paying that forward." One by one, crew members spoke up. All of them agreed. All of them wanted to help. Daeho felt something swell in his chest, a pride in his species that he had never quite felt before. Humans could be selfish and violent and short-sighted, but they could also be this: brave and compassionate and willing to risk everything for strangers. "Then it's decided," Taejun said. "Let's show these aliens what humans are really made of." The 12 ships arrived on schedule. They were damaged and cold, limping toward the station on failing power systems. Taejun opened a communication channel, but there was no response. The ships could not spare the energy for transmissions. Instead, Daeho stood in the docking bay with Hana beside him. She was wrapped in a thermal suit that Kyung had designed, keeping her warm while allowing her to move around the station. She touched Daeho's hand and sent out a thermal signal, a beacon of warmth and welcome that the approaching ships could detect. The first ship docked. The airlock opened, and thousands of desperate aliens saw not weapons or barriers, but humans waiting with thermal blankets and heating units and open arms. Daeho watched as Hana rushed forward to greet her people. He watched as the crew helped carry the weak and injured. He watched as humans and aliens worked together, communicating through touch and gesture in the universal language of compassion. This was humanity's greatest strength. Not violence, not domination, but the simple willingness to help those in need, even when it was hard, even when it was dangerous, even when it meant defying authority. And Daeho knew, with absolute certainty, that they had made the right choice. The station had been transformed in 3 days. What had once been empty corridors and storage sections now hummed with alien life. The temperature in the converted habitat stayed at a constant 45 degrees. Silicon dust hung in the air like glittering snow, and everywhere Daeho looked, he saw humans and aliens working together, learning from each other, building something new, but the peace could not last. The military ship appeared on long-range scanners exactly 72 hours after the first alien vessel had docked. It was a destroyer class, heavily armed, with enough firepower to turn the station into debris if the commander decided that was necessary. Its name was the Defender, which Daeho found grimly ironic given the situation. Taejun received the communication in his office. Daeho was there too, along with Yuna and Kyung. They all listened as Admiral Heejin's face appeared on the screen, her expression cold and professional. "Commander Taejun, I am Admiral Hyejin of the Earth Defense Force. I am here to relieve you of command and take control of this situation." "Admiral, I can explain," Taejun started. "You disobeyed direct orders. You harbored potential hostile aliens on a civilian research station. You risked the lives of your entire crew." Heejin's voice was sharp as broken glass. "There is nothing to explain. You are hereby removed from command. All personnel are to stand down immediately. The aliens will be transferred to military custody for study and quarantine." "They're not hostile," Daeho said, stepping forward. "We've been living with them for 3 days. We've learned to communicate. They're refugees, not threats." Heejin's eyes shifted to him. "And you must be the xenobiologist. Daeho, correct? The one who made first contact in such an unorthodox manner." Daeho felt his face flush. Of course, Earth Command knew about that. "Yes, Admiral. Your actions, while certainly memorable, do not change the situation. These aliens are unknown, unvetted, potentially dangerous. They will be quarantined until we determine they pose no threat to humanity." "And if they die during quarantine?" Yuna asked. They need specific environmental conditions to survive. Will your military facility provide that? We will do what is necessary to keep them alive for study, Hyejin said. But the safety of humanity comes first. The screen went dark. The communication was over. Taejun sat down heavily in his chair, looking older than he had just a few minutes ago. She's going to take them, Kyung said quietly. She's going to put them in cages and study them like animals. Not if we can help it, Daeho said. How exactly do we stop a military destroyer? Taejun asked. We're a research station. We have no weapons, no defenses worth mentioning. If Hyejin decides to take those aliens by force, there's nothing we can do. Then we don't stop her by force, Daeho said. We stop her by changing her mind. 3 hours later, Admiral Hyejin arrived on the station with a full squad of Marines. They were armed and ready for resistance, but what they found was not resistance. What they found was a reception committee. Daeho stood at the front with Hana beside him. Behind them were 50 crew members, humans and aliens mixed together, all wearing thermal exchange suits that allowed both species to share body heat comfortably. The aliens had been teaching the humans about thermal communication. The humans had been teaching the aliens about verbal language. Both groups were learning, growing, becoming something more than they had been alone. Hyejin stepped off the transport, her hand resting on her sidearm. She took in the scene with sharp eyes, missing nothing. Admiral, Daeho said, welcome to Horizon's Edge. We'd like to show you what we've accomplished here. I'm not here for a tour, Doctor. I'm here to secure hostile aliens. Then see for yourself if they're hostile. Daeho gestured to the group behind him. These people have been living and working together for 3 days. No incidents, no violence, no threats, just cooperation. Hyejin looked past him to Hana. That's one of them? Her name is Hana. She was the first to arrive. She's their navigator. Daeho touched Hana's hand and she stepped forward slowly. She'd like to communicate with you if you're willing. Communicate how? Thermal contact. They share information through heat transfer. It's completely safe. I've done it dozens of times. Hyejin did not move. Her Marines tensed, ready to act if needed. The moment stretched out, tense and fragile as thin ice. Then Hyejin held out her hand. Hana reached out slowly and touched the Admiral's palm. Daeho watched Hyejin's face change as the information transfer began. Her eyes widened. Her breath caught. Her stern expression cracked, showing shock, then sadness, then something that might have been understanding. When Hana pulled away, Hyejin was shaking slightly. She took a moment to compose herself, but when she spoke, her voice was different. Quieter, less certain. I saw their world die, she said. I felt it. The fear, the desperation. She looked at Daeho. That's why you helped them. Because you felt that too. Yes, but also because it was the right thing to do. Hyejin turned to her Marines. Stand down. We're not here to fight today. She looked back at Daeho. But this doesn't solve our problem. Earth Command's orders still stand. The safety of humanity is still paramount. What if helping them makes humanity safer? Kyung stepped forward. Admiral, in 3 days we've learned more about thermal energy management than we knew in the last 50 years. The aliens have technology that could revolutionize our power systems, our propulsion, our medicine. This isn't just about compassion. This is about advancement. She's right, Yuna added. I've been studying their biology. They have healing capabilities that we don't understand yet. They can repair cellular damage at the molecular level. If we can learn how they do that, we could cure diseases that have plagued humanity for centuries. Hyejin listened, her expression thoughtful. Even if all of that is true, it doesn't change the fact that Commander Taejun disobeyed direct orders. There are consequences for that. I accept those consequences, Taejun said, stepping forward. Court-martial me if you must. But don't punish these people for my decision. And don't punish the aliens for being desperate enough to seek human help. Before Hyejin could respond, an alarm started blaring. Bora's voice came through every speaker on the station. We have a medical emergency in Habitat Section 3. Multiple aliens are showing signs of rapid temperature loss. They're dying. Daeho did not wait for permission. He ran toward Section 3 with Hana close behind him. He could hear others following, humans and aliens both, all of them rushing toward the crisis. Section 3 was chaos. A dozen aliens lay on the floor, their bodies flickering between different temperatures like dying embers. Huna was already there with her medical team, but she looked helpless. "I don't know what's wrong," she said when Daeho arrived. "Their thermal regulation just stopped working. It's like their bodies are giving up." Hana touched one of the dying aliens, and Daeho saw her whole body tense. She made a sound, that vibration from inside her chest, but this time it was pure grief. She looked at Daeho and touched his hand. The information transfer was painful. He saw what she saw. These aliens were the elders of their people. They had survived the death of their world, survived the journey through space, survived because they were strong and determined. But they were also old and tired and damaged. They had held on long enough to see their people reach safety. Now they were letting go. "They're dying by choice," Daeho said, his voice breaking. "They're shutting down their systems to conserve resources for the younger ones. They think there's not enough heat for everyone." "That's ridiculous," Kyung said. "We have enough." "Tell them we have enough," Daeho tried. He touched each dying alien, tried to send them the message that they did not need to sacrifice themselves, that there was plenty of warmth and safety for everyone. But they were already too far gone. Their decision had been made. He watched helplessly as one by one their body temperatures dropped to 0. 12 aliens died in that room, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. The silence after was terrible. Humans and aliens stood together, united in grief, watching the bodies cool and harden into something like statues, beautiful and tragic and permanent. Admiral Heejin had followed them to Section 3. She stood at the back of the room, watching everything. When the last alien had died, she stepped forward and knelt beside one of the bodies. She touched its hardened surface gently, reverently. "They sacrificed themselves for their people," she said quietly. That's remarkable." "They didn't need to," Daeho said bitterly. "We could have saved them. Could you?" Heejin stood up, looking around at all the aliens in the habitat. "How many are there? Thousands? How long can you sustain that? How long before your resources run out?" "We'll find a way," Taejun said. "We always do." "Maybe." Heejin looked at the dead aliens again, and something in her expression shifted. "I came here to follow orders, to protect humanity from potential threats. But what I see here is not a threat. What I see is courage and sacrifice, and the kind of partnership that could make both our species stronger." She turned to face Taejun. "I'm going to file a report with Earth Command. I'm going to recommend that we grant refugee status to these aliens. I'm going to suggest that we work with them, learn from them, help them find a new home." She paused. "I'm also going to recommend that you be given a formal reprimand instead of a court-martial. What you did was against orders, but it was also Admiral Hyejin's report to Earth Command was rejected within 24 hours. The response was clear and brutal. All aliens were to be transferred to military quarantine facilities immediately. No exceptions. No negotiations. Commander Taejun was to be arrested and transported back to Earth for court-martial. Any crew member who resisted would face similar charges. The message was delivered by a bureaucrat whose face appeared on every screen throughout the station. His name was Director Wan, and his voice carried the weight of people who made decisions from safe offices far away from the actual consequences. "The decision is final," Director Wan said. "Earth's security cannot be compromised by emotional attachments to alien species, regardless of their apparent friendliness. The military vessel Defender will begin transfer operations in 6 hours. All station personnel are ordered to cooperate fully." The transmission ended. In the silence that followed, Daeho looked around the command center. Taejun stood with his arms crossed, his face unreadable. Hyejin looked angry but resigned, like someone who had seen this coming. Bora sat at her station, fingers hovering over her keyboard as if waiting for permission to act. Kyung was already shaking her head. "We can't let them take the aliens," Kyung said. "They'll die in those military facilities. You know they will." "We don't have a choice," Hyejin said quietly. "I'm a military officer. I follow orders, even ones I disagree with." "Then I'm glad I'm not military," Taejun said. He walked to the center of the room and looked at his crew. "I'm not surrendering. Not to Director Wan, not to Earth Command, not to anyone who thinks safety means abandoning our principles." "Taejun," Hyejin warned. "If you resist, they'll send more ships. This won't end well. Maybe not. But I'd rather fight and fail than surrender without trying." Taejun looked at each person in the room. "Anyone who wants to leave, who wants to cooperate with the transfer, you can go now. I won't stop you. But I'm staying. This station is my responsibility, and so are the people on it. All of them. Human and alien. Nobody moved to leave. You're all insane, Hyejin said, but there was something like respect in her voice. Probably, Taejun agreed. Bora, can you lock down the docking systems? Make it impossible for the defender to force a connection? Bora grinned. I can do better than that. I can make every system on this station look like it's malfunctioning. They won't know what's real and what's fake. It'll buy us time. How much time? A few days, maybe. A week if I'm clever. Be clever. Taejun turned to Kyung. You've been working with the aliens on their technology. Is there any way we can use it? Any kind of defense? Not weapons, if that's what you're asking. Their technology is all about thermal management and energy conversion, but Kyung's eyes lit up with that engineering excitement again. What if we don't need weapons? What if we just need to disappear? Explain, Taejun said. The aliens use thermal signatures for everything. Navigation, communication, perception. What if we could mask the station's thermal output? Make it invisible to scanners? Is that possible? I don't know, but I know someone who might. Kyung looked at Daeho. I need to talk to Hana. Daeho found Hana in the memorial hall, a section of the station that had been converted into a place of remembrance for the 12 elders who had died. The aliens had created something beautiful there. The walls were lined with crystalline structures grown from silicon compounds, each one unique, each one representing one of the dead. They glowed with stored thermal energy, casting soft light that shifted through different colors. Hana was standing in front of one crystal, her hand pressed against its surface. When Daeho approached, she turned to him and reached out. He took her hand and the familiar rush of information flowed between them. She showed him her grief, her fear for her people, her gratitude for everything the humans had done. He showed her the danger they were in. He showed her the military ship coming to take them away. He showed her Kyung's idea about thermal masking. Hana's response was immediate and strong. She could help. Her people could help. They had technology that humans had never imagined. But there was something else, something more important that she needed to show him. The images that flooded Daeho's mind made him gasp. He saw a planet, not far from their current position, orbiting a stable star. He saw analysis that the aliens had done, scans showing that the planet could support both human and alien life with some modifications. He saw a potential home for both species. When he pulled away, he was breathless. You found a planet, a place where both our species could live. Hana made that agreeable sound. She touched a panel on the wall and a holographic display appeared, showing star charts and planetary data. It was all in alien symbols, but Daeho could understand the basics through his thermal connection with Hana. The planet was 3 weeks away at maximum speed. It had a thick atmosphere, volcanic activity that would provide heat, and mineral deposits rich in both carbon and silicon compounds. We need to show this to Taejun, Daeho said. Within an hour, the command center was filled with humans and aliens working together. Hana and 2 other alien navigators shared their data with Bora, using thermal touch to transfer information faster than any computer network. Kyung worked with alien engineers to understand their cloaking technology. Yuna studied planetary data to determine what modifications would be needed for long-term habitation. This could work, Bora said, studying the navigational data. If we can get past the defender, if we can make the journey, this planet could actually work. That's a lot of ifs, Taejun said. It's more hope than we had an hour ago, Yuna pointed out. Do-Yun had been quiet throughout the planning, but now he spoke up. Even if we make the station invisible to thermal scans, they can still track us visually. The defender has powerful telescopes. They'll see us moving. Not if we don't move like a station, Kyung said. What if we could break apart, separate into smaller pieces? Each piece masked thermally, moving on different trajectories, all converging on the same destination. You want to dismantle the station? Taejun looked shocked. Not permanently. Just enough to create confusion. The defender can't chase 20 different objects. They'll have to choose, and by the time they figure out which pieces actually matter, we'll be too far away. That's completely insane, Hyejin said. She had been listening to everything with growing disbelief. You're talking about breaking up a space station while thousands of people are living on it. People could die. People will definitely die if we surrender, Daeho said quietly. The aliens can't survive in military quarantine, and Earth Command has made it clear they see them as specimens, not refugees. Hyejin was silent for a long moment. Then she turned to Taejun. If you do this, you're committing treason. All of you. Earth will hunt you. They won't stop. I know, Taejun said. And you're still going to do it? Yes. Hyejin closed her eyes and Daeho could see the war happening behind her expression. Duty versus conscience, orders versus morality, the safe choice versus the right one. When she opened her eyes again, she had made her decision. Then you're going to need help. The defender systems, I know them inside and out. I can tell you their weaknesses, their blind spots. I can help you escape, Admiral, one of her Marines said in shock. You can't. I can and I will, Hyejin said firmly. What we're being ordered to do is wrong. I won't be part of it. She looked at her squad. Any of you who want to return to the Defender, you can go now. I won't hold it against you. 3 Marines left immediately. The other 5 stayed. One of them, a young woman named Soman, stepped forward. My grandmother was a refugee. She always told me that the people who helped her were heroes. I want to be that kind of person. Hyejin nodded and something like pride showed on her face. Then let's be heroes. The next 6 hours were the most intense of Daeho's life. The entire station became a hive of activity. Humans and aliens worked side by side, combining their technologies in ways that neither species had thought possible before. Kyung led teams that installed thermal masking technology throughout the station. The alien engineers showed them how to manipulate heat signatures, how to create false readings, how to make a massive space station look like nothing more than background radiation. Bora worked with the alien navigators to plot escape routes. They used thermal mapping of local space to find the coldest, darkest paths, routes that would make them nearly impossible to track. Yuna prepared medical supplies for the journey. 3 weeks in space with limited resources meant everyone would need to be healthy and efficient. She worked with alien healers to create hybrid medical techniques that could treat both species. And Daeho worked with Hana to create a communication system that would let them coordinate the escape. They developed a method of sending thermal pulses through space, messages that only their combined human-alien sensors could detect. It was slow and limited, but it would work. 5 hours into the preparation, the Defender made its move. The military ship approached the station and requested immediate docking clearance. When Bora denied the request, citing system malfunctions, the Defender's captain threatened to use force. This is your final warning, the captain's voice came through. The journey took 19 days, not 3 weeks. The combined ingenuity of humans and aliens had created more efficient propulsion systems than either species had managed alone. Thermal energy conversion paired with human fusion technology produced thrust that was both powerful and sustainable. But those 19 days were not easy. The scattered sections of the station had to navigate separately through asteroid fields and radiation zones. 2 sections suffered damage from micrometeorite impacts. 1 section lost power for 6 terrifying hours before Kyung and her alien counterparts managed to repair the thermal regulators. Food was rationed. Water was recycled so many times that it tasted like metal. Everyone was exhausted, stressed, and scared, but nobody gave up. Daeho spent most of the journey moving between sections in small transport pods, checking on the aliens, helping with communication problems, carrying thermal messages from one group to another. He had lost weight and gained dark circles under his eyes, but he kept working. They all did. On day 12, Earth Command caught up with them. Not the Defender, but 3 smaller pursuit ships, faster and more maneuverable. They matched velocity with the largest section, the one that held most of the aliens, and demanded surrender. This is Commander Park of the pursuit vessel Resolute. You have committed treason against Earth. Surrender now and you will be treated fairly. Resist and we will use force. Taejun responded from the command section. Commander Park, we are refugees seeking a new home. We have no intention of harming Earth or any human interests. We simply ask to be left in peace. That's not an option. You are harboring dangerous aliens. They're not dangerous. Daeho cut in, his voice sharp with frustration. They're families, children, scientists and artists and farmers. They're just people trying to survive. There was a pause. Then Commander Park's voice came back, quieter. I have my orders. Then you have a choice to make, Taejun said. Follow orders that are wrong, or choose to do what's right. The 3 pursuit ships followed them for 2 more days, maintaining distance but not attacking. Daeho wondered what Commander Park was thinking, what internal struggle was happening aboard those ships. Then on day 14, the pursuit ships turned around and headed back toward Earth. They let us go, Bora said, disbelief in her voice. No. Eugene said softly. They chose not to follow. That's different. Better. On day 16, they got their first clear view of the planet. It filled the view screens, a world of blues and greens and oranges, wrapped in thick clouds that glowed with reflected sunlight. Active volcanoes dotted the surface, their heat visible even from space. It was beautiful in a wild, untamed way. Hana stood next to Daeho, looking at their destination. She touched his hand and shared her feelings with him. Joy and fear and hope all mixed together. This could be their new home. Or it could be another failure, another ending. We'll make it work, Daeho said. We've come too far to fail now. The landing took 3 days. Each section had to descend separately, finding suitable locations near each other but spread out enough to avoid accidents. The aliens needed to be near volcanic activity for heat. The humans needed to be near water and arable land. Finding locations that satisfied both requirements was challenging, but not impossible. The section that held the command center was the last to land. Daeho stood in the observation deck with Hana, Taijun, Yuna, Kyung, Hyejin, and Dohyun, watching as the planet's surface rushed up to meet them. Mountains and valleys, rivers and lava flows all blurring together as they descended through the thick atmosphere. The landing was rough. The whole structure shook and groaned. Alarms blared. Everyone grabbed onto something solid and held on. Then, with a final massive thud that knocked everyone off their feet, they landed. Silence. Nobody moved for a moment, too stunned to believe they had actually made it. Then Kyung started laughing. We're alive. We actually made it. The laughter spread through the section like wildfire, humans and aliens alike, all of them laughing with relief and joy and disbelief that they had survived. Daeho helped Hana to her feet. Through their touch, he felt her wonder. She had never expected to feel solid ground beneath her again. Her world had died. Her people had scattered into the cold dark. But here now, there was ground and heat and the possibility of a future. The first week on the planet was chaos. Systems that had worked fine in space failed in the thick atmosphere. The air pressure was higher than Earth normal, which made humans feel constantly tired. The volcanic activity was more intense than the alien scans had suggested, which meant some sections had to be relocated. But slowly, day by day, they adapted. Humans and aliens worked together to build proper habitats. They used materials from the dismantled station, combined with resources harvested from the planet. The aliens taught humans about thermal architecture, buildings that captured and distributed heat efficiently. Humans taught aliens about agriculture and water management. Do-hyun, the security officer who had been so suspicious at first, became one of the most enthusiastic workers. He helped build a school where human and alien children could learn together. My daughter is going to grow up on this world, he said one day while carrying construction materials. I want her to see aliens as neighbors, not threats. Yuna established a medical center that served both species. She worked closely with alien healers to understand their techniques. Together, they developed treatments that neither species could have created alone. She saved 3 human lives and 7 alien lives in the first month alone. Kyung became obsessed with the planet's geology. She spent her free time exploring volcanic vents and mineral deposits, mapping resources, dreaming of the things they could build. This planet has everything we need, she said excitedly. Metals, silicon, rare earth elements. We could build a civilization here that surpasses anything on Earth. Bora established communication systems connecting all the settlements. She created a hybrid network that used both human computer technology and alien thermal signaling. We're building something new here, she said. Not human culture or alien culture, but something that combines the best of both. Taejun became the unofficial governor of the new colony. He settled disputes, organized work parties, made sure everyone had what they needed to survive. He was still technically a criminal in Earth's eyes, facing charges of treason. But here on this planet, he was a leader who had saved thousands of lives. Hyejin worked alongside him, using her military experience to organize defense systems in case Earth decided to come after them. But as weeks turned to months with no sign of pursuit, she began to relax. Maybe they've decided we're not worth the trouble, she said. Or maybe someone back home convinced them to leave us alone. Daeho and Hana became ambassadors between the two species. They refined their thermal communication method and taught it to others. Slowly, More humans learned to share information through heat transfer. More aliens learned to speak verbal language. The barrier between species grew thinner every day. 5 months after landing, they had a ceremony. They named their settlement Chohung, which meant morning star in Korean. It was a symbol of new beginnings, of hope rising from darkness. Representatives from every human and alien family gathered in the central plaza, a space built cooperatively using techniques from both species. Taijun gave a speech. "We left Earth as criminals. We arrived here as refugees, but we are neither of those things anymore. We are pioneers. We are the proof that two species can not just coexist but thrive together. What we build here will echo across the galaxy." Hana spoke next, though she needed Daeho to translate her thermal communication into words. "My people thought we would die in the cold dark of space. We thought our civilization would end with the death of our world. But then we met humans, and we learned that compassion is the warmest force in the universe. You did not just save our bodies. You saved our hope." That night they celebrated. Music from both cultures filled the air. Food from both cultures was shared freely. Children played together, not caring about the difference between carbon-based and silicon-based life. They were just children, playing under alien stars. Daeho stood on the edge of the plaza with Hana, watching the celebration. He thought about everything that had happened since that morning, when he woke up naked with an alien woman on top of him. "It felt like a lifetime ago. It felt like yesterday. What are you thinking?" Hana asked, using the simple verbal language she had learned. "I'm thinking about how this all started," Daeho said. "How scared I was. How I almost pressed that emergency button to call for help instead of just holding you and keeping you warm." Hana touched his hand, sharing feelings through their thermal connection. Gratitude, affection, something deeper that neither of them had words for yet. "If you had pressed that button," Hana said slowly, "my people would have died. Your people would have treated us as threats. None of this would exist. But I didn't press it, because in that moment I chose to help instead of fear." Daeho looked at the celebration, at humans and aliens dancing together. "That's what humans do when we're at our best. We choose compassion even when it's scary. We choose to help even when it's dangerous."